Kaboom!
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Mint Condition. I am Joe, alongside our esteemed colleagues and co-hosts Chad and Dez. How you guys doing today? We're ready to have some fun here. So let's start here. With the last couple shows, we've been talking exclusively NBA Top Shot because this show is meant to give you all that's going on in the sports, NFT, and collectible world. And in the last 2 weeks, I have become obsessed with the project that we're going to be talking about today. And so we wanted to go a little off the beaten track and talk about a new project here that is catching fire. And that is Zed Run. So today we have Trav from Zed Run, who is the head of marketing, and Chris, who is the creative director and co-founder of Zed. Chris, how you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you? Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us. Trav, how you doing, man?
Yeah, even better, man. Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely. So let's start here. So
hey, wait, you're better than you haven't.
I was gonna say,
It's
What's that?
always a competition at Zed.
Oh, he's better
I
than
just won that.
It's always a competition with him.
That's funny. So we have, we've been talking about the NFT space and how that relates to sports. And I found you guys, I had actually heard about it maybe a month ago, and I hadn't dug quite in. And then a couple weeks ago, you had the horse drop heard around the world, I think, and that's when everything kind of really exploded for you guys. So Zed is not technically, it's not a new product. It's been around for quite some time, but now it's about it's kind of hitting that tipping point in mainstream. So Chris, why don't you kind of walk us through what Zed is, how it started, and kind of when it started.
All right. I'll do my best. So Zed's been around for almost 2 years, I'd say. And Chris and Rob, my co-founders, they reached out to me, just around 2 years ago when they had this idea. I'd worked with Chris and Rob in the past on some Kickstarter games concepts. So my background is film, visual effects. And I've known these guys for a good, 7 years now. But they reached out to me a good 2 years ago, and they had this idea. And I remember sitting on the call, and they were talking about, we want these digital horses. We want to democratize horse ownership. We want to be able to give everybody the opportunity to own race horses, breed them, race them, and have that feeling about what it's like when you own a beautiful stud, right? And in Australia, it's a big thing, right? Horse racing is huge. You see it everywhere you go. So I'm based in Australia. So is Chris and Rob. Trav, that's why he's a bit different than the rest of us. He's in South Africa, so don't mind that. Sorry,
Way
Trav.
to monitor.
No, anyway, yeah, I do idolize you. Hey, and so when they came with this idea, it was like, okay, this is amazing. And there was something in it, right? There's something in it. And in short, what Zed is a digital horse racing ecosystem where you can buy, breed, own Zed racehorses, right? And it's set in a parallel universe to ours. So I've created we're in the midst of creating lore and story, but there's always been this story that it's using quantum physics. It's in a parallel universe to ours. On a separate Earth, just like ours, but set in 2150. So it's future, it's cyberpunk, it's sci-fi, and this future, this is where digital horse racing reigns supreme, right? So this Zed horse racing has come up, and it's given everybody an equal opportunity to own horses and to amass wealth within the system. And what we're trying to do with that lore is, of course, tie it to what we're doing today, which we're seeing is actually happening. We're enabling people to go in, or our users to go and buy horses and sell them after holding them for a bit, So there's different kind of users. Breed more horses, create a stable, and make money that way. And of course, the master racing, which is the core of our product, is horse racing. And we're seeing people do this. We've got stable owners out there with like 200 plus horses, and they are licking their lips these days because of what you mentioned. This massive drop that we had. We've had like 3 in a row, Trav, or 2.
Yep. This is our 3rd now.
Yeah, and we've got one. Yeah, and we've got one more coming, which I'm gonna let Trav decide whether he can announce or not.
Oh, I think the cat's out of the bag as of a couple minutes ago on Twitter.
Excellent. Well, see, I just woke up, so I'm happy.
It was perfect. Honestly, perfect timing. So we'll get into that in a little bit. I do really like the way you described it as an ecosystem, because I think it is more than just a game. I think what you're starting to see in in this short time that I've been involved in the last couple of weeks and really diving into the Discord is it is an ecosystem. And I can see it already happening. There's breeders, there's racers, there's buyers and sellers, there's people that are going to be training horses for other people. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's the middleman as well, and there's who's helping people get the deals, like the escrow, which is really awesome too. I mean, we got to be careful of that as well. Make sure people do their due diligence, because when there's money in it, when there's wealth around it, there's going to be hustlers coming in too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just going to put that out to my Zed community as well. Just be diligent.
I found one the other day. I found one.
Yeah,
I called it. Dude, I called it right. I said to you.
Yeah, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen with NBA. Yeah, but look, that happened when we were trading basketball cards as kids.
Oh, sure. And it happens all the time. Anytime you do an off-market deal like that.
And happens all exactly. And at the end of the day, you just got to watch out. But what's Zed in, and just to come back to what it is an ecosystem. And the reason why it's empowered by the blockchain. It's empowered by NFTs, the whole concept of true ownership. And this is where I'm really excited. I mean, I'm really on the creative side about the story and the technology that we want to put into it, and the look and the design and all that. And going into what I call the metaverse. We're creating this digital horse racing ecosystem, it's first of its kind in the metaverse, right? That's our contribution for now. But where I want to take it and where we want to take it is enabling people through advanced technology, virtual reality. So again, going back to the lore, you can step into the Zed universe like that. You can travel to that metaverse. You can travel to that alternate universe, Planet Novus or whatever we're going to call it, where horse racing reigns supreme by putting on your VR headset, right? And we have an AR app now as well, where you can bring the horses out and you can actually place them in your surroundings. So you can go and download that now if you have a horse, and you can actually link it to your account, and you can bring a horse or walk it down the beach if you live by beach.
My wife is going to be so mad that when my horse comes to dinner later, it is going to be...
Exactly. Hey, can you just make room for my horse over there?
Yeah, excuse me,
Go on a date and just take a selfie with you and the horse.
Me and the horse.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Exactly. So just horsing around.
Yeah, the metaverse piece is very interesting. Des, we were talking about we've seen partnership with Atari and how that might look in the metaverse. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the potential of these types of games in the metaverse, Des?
Yeah, so I always preach utility, and this is utility to the fullest, right? We get really excited about NBA Top Shot from the collectible side here, but I think what the Zed Run team is doing is just taking that a few steps further as far as utility. It's not just racing, it's not just collecting and then racing, it's breeding, it's this whole metaverse, and I think that's really unique, and I truly think that's the future of where NFTs are going. And as we've seen, even in the Top Shot space, as you add utility, it brings more people in, it gets more people excited. There's actually a use to these things. So I've been a horse racing fan my entire life. I've been handicapping horses since I was 7. I have 2 of the best tracks in the US right by my doorstep. So I'm so excited for this.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what, supply of these horses and what it kind of looks like in what's available in the game now and how all of that kind of works. So Trav, could you walk us through, what the types of, horses are and that people can buy and what that might mean to how they can utilize them in the game, what advantages and disadvantages they have? Because I think that's kind of where you need to start if you're going to look to purchase one of these horses. You really need to understand what it is you're looking at, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the first place to start is that we have a group of racehorses called Genesis racehorses. So those are racehorses that we have created. They've never been bred. They are like the OG racehorses. So there's only ever going to be 38,000 of those racehorses. And I think we've already had about 8,000 of those go out of the door. Probably even more, Ibs. I'm not
more. I think,
I'm not too sure. Yeah, probably quite a bit more. So that's the first thing, is that with the Genesis, you have this inherent scarcity because there's a limited number that's not going to change. Then you can obviously start breeding and things like that. But amongst those racehorses, Genesis is limited to Z1 to Z10. So that's something that we call the genotype. So honestly, it's a really easy way to understand how rare that racehorse is. So Z1 being the most rare, Z10 being less rare. And then as you breed, your genotype grows. So if you breed a Z10 and a Z10, you're going to get a Z20 and so on and so forth. And that's what's really cool, is that our users are going to start populating our ecosystem in the long run. So what's going to happen is that...
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
So what's really cool about it is that, we've got 38,000 Genesis racehorses going on, but because, we're introducing that real world mechanic of breeding, it's the longer it goes, almost the more scarcity is going to kind of be introduced to the Genesis, in my opinion, because I speak to a lot of users who are like, hey, I got this Genesis, got really low mint number, and which is something that we've never even looked at. We just look at genotypes. So when you start breaking genotypes down even further, then we have bloodlines, essentially. So those bloodlines are really cool, and that kind of ties into the lore that Ebbs is working on. But it's also just a really cool way of how you then group the genotypes. So we have Nakamoto, which is Z1 and Z2. Ebbs, you need to help me out, because I don't know if I ever pronounced this correctly. The Sabo?
Zabo, yeah.
Zabo, yep.
Zabo, okay. Thanks,
Zabo.
Everyone, for telling me I'm wrong. I appreciate that. Which is the set, which is Z3 and 4. Then you get the Finny, and then you get Buterin. And what's then really interesting is that, so you have the rarity built into this that kind of determines the value of the racehorses. So Z1 is more expensive down to the Z10. Then you have attributes that get built into the racehorses, because again, we want the racehorses we want to have true utility represented in a provably fair way. So each of these racehorses get attributes and strengths and genetics baked into them when they are created, right? But what's really, really cool about the way that we do it is that, yes, a Z1 is going to have a higher chance at being a successful racehorse. But what you see is now, for example, Z10 Buterins are absolute monsters on the racetrack. Absolute monsters. I'm talking about going into a race with 11 other Z1 Nakamotos and just blowing away the field. So one of the users described it really well. It's almost like as you go higher in the genotype, it is almost like a bit more lottery ticket. So you are kind of playing with a bit more risk. Like a Z1 Nakamoto, always going to be pretty solid, pretty big strengths, but never count out the higher genotypes, which I love as well. I don't hold any Z1s, for example, because the drops have just been so fast, I haven't been able to get them. But, note Chris, Rob, and everyone else that works at Zed, I would like a Z1.
You can't afford it, Trev.
Yeah, at this point,
I'm being honest.
I can't even afford it.
I can't afford a Z1.
I want it for free, everyone. And this is recorded. But you know what, man? I can still run a race with my Z10 Buterin, and I'm still winning races, man. Not many, granted, but it's not the horse's fault. So that's kind of
there's some to your point, there is some monster Z10s out there. The one
Z10s. You
Z10. Sorry, the
American swine.
Sorry.
Here we go.
The one that I literally almost was able to buy it on the drop the other night, and I missed out. It's the one that was Zombie Boy. He was he's a monster already. So, but yeah. So when you have those, the genotypes, the Z1 through Z10, and then you have the bloodlines. That's kind of what is going to make an impact going forward as you breed these down the line. Like, so when all the Genesis horses are purchased, right? And people now, the only way to get a Genesis horse is to buy one off either an existing user, or you have to buy a bred horse, right? So when you get these horses in the breeding aspect, how does the breeding or the bloodline affect potentially the breeding, and how does the breeding piece work? Maybe Chris, you want to walk us through that a little?
I would if I knew. The thing is with the breeding, what we're seeing, which is really, really cool as well, is the community is actually, they're going away and they're writing up all these articles and research papers basically on how they think the breeding works. There's some amazing support from some guys like Poseidon Racing and a guy who runs Zed Gazette. And they've put together all these they're amazing. And they put all these graphs together on speculation, right? And we want people to speculate as well. And to Trav's point with the racing as well, we don't tell you this horse is good at a 1,200 meter race. You got to figure that out, right? So you got to go in and you got to figure out what your Z10 is beasting at, for example, or what your Z4 is really good at. And that's part of that, discovery experience, ownership experience. You don't know when the baby comes out, what it's going to do. So you gotta walk it through its steps and take notes. And these guys, they make graphs and they've got spreadsheets on racing.
Oh yeah, man, it's absolutely
they crazy, man. And I love it big time. So to answer your question, I mean, how does the breeding work? Like, there's some theories out there that they think it skips a generation. Billions that just was sold for $125,000 from its original owner, which is ridiculous. Like, awesome, but crazy. I still can't believe it. Like, that's a Rolls Royce, man. Big time. Like,
that's a real horse.
That's a couple of real horses.
There's a couple of real horses right there, right? But there was some theories going around about how people had bred him in the past and how it skipped a couple of generations, and there was this beast horse and master bred horse, and it performed on the track well. But to take you through it in detail, that I wouldn't be. I'm not equipped to do that. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Pass that one back to Trav.
Yeah, the breeding is crazy deep, man. Like, because the breeding, it gets as deep as we have. And I might even be wrong here, but it's like you have Genesis, then you have legendary, exclusive, elite, cross and pacer, and
yes, exactly.
And those bloodlines actually kind of perform as if it's like if you have two Ebbs, yeah,
they're breed types. Sorry, breed types. So they're the six breed types.
So the thing is, it's super deep into it. So And I think that the whole thing there is that when the guys kind of created the breeding models, because I wasn't around yet when the breeding models were created, but it was like they kind of wanted to make it deep enough so that there were these kind of like questions around it, where it's like, how does this kind of work? Like, where's the bloodline going to end up? Because I think the fun thing about real world, like equestrian and horse racing, when you do breed it, is almost like you're kind of gambling. Like, I don't know a ton about it, but it's like, it's not as simple as going, okay, cool, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. Like, you're breeding, you're learning, and it's just like the racing. Like, I'm sure Des would be able to answer it better than
I mean, that's what's something I love about Zed is, the parallels between real horse racing and the digital horse racing. There's a ton, and that whole randomization of breeding, but giving yourself a better chance by pairing a good sire and mare. That's in real life, but there's always the chance that it's a flop. And that's how it works. So
you have you have Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr., and then you got like things that come out that look like me, and you're just like, how the hell does that even happen?
They can't host a podcast, dude.
That's great.
It's a good
That's
point.
true.
Hey, you know, that might be true. That might be true. But yeah, Des, I know you had some questions in here for us in the show doc. Do you want to
Sure.
get into any of that stuff?
There's a good question related to kind of what we're talking about, the parallels between, physical horse racing and digital. The one biggest gap that I see, and I just curious if either of you kind of know the genesis of this, but the horses don't tire out. I think that's the biggest difference between real horse racing and digital horse racing, or physical and digital, is that, over time, you can't run a 7-year-old. You can't run an 8-year-old.
No.
Is that something you guys have thought about? Something you're willing to change? What's kind of the thought there?
It's definitely something we've talked about, and it's but also remember, we are digital racehorses, so there's a balance to be struck where it's like, well, if these guys are digital and they're spawned from digital atoms and they're the future, like cyberpunky horses, they're not going to be as tired as real world horses, but we need to draw a familiarity across for sure, because that's key to any kind of experience. So it's definitely in discussions, and it has been from discussions from the get-go. And it's something we are looking at to bring on board. And how it looks, I can't tell you just yet, but it's something we've been hearing a lot from the community. It's something that, as a gamer myself, I know we need. And the guys are also well aware of that too. It's just a matter of time. Like
it's just also getting it 100%.
It's getting it, exactly, getting it, that balance, like 100% right. You're absolutely correct, Trav. So there's a lot on the cards on our roadmap where we love to take this, and that is one of them. So yeah,
great.
Happy you brought it up.
No, yeah. And then, let's talk about the big news, because Cat is out of bag. It was just on Twitter right before I messaged Joe and Chad, oh my God, they're doing a mega drop. It's 2,000 Genesis horses on this Friday, April 2nd. What I found very interesting is the mix between the bloodlines. You got even mix across Nagamoto, Zuebo, Finney, and Buterin. That's going to be interesting to play out, since you have 10,000 new users. We'll see if they go deep into their pockets to kind of pay up, because I'm assuming these Z10s are going to fly off the shelves, and everyone's going to kind of be wondering, all right, do I pay up for a Finney? Do I pay up for a Zuebo? So it's going to be interesting.
So that the dispersion of this is Chad, I think you have the graphic that I sent you about what's already been released.
Was that first one?
Yeah, the one that looks like the
I'll bring it
Excel
up
file
now.
here. Yeah, so if we want to bring this up. So this is what was floating around the Discord as what has already been released, right? So what we have is, and this could be, close but no cigar, but we have essentially, around those 500 Z1, Z2, Z3, and Z4 left to be distributed. And all of those should be coming out on this drop then. Is that correct?
No, so it's still a good portion. So it's going to be 500 Nakamotos. So the Nakamotos are a mix of the Z1 and the Z2.
Okay, so that'll be between the Z1 and 2. Got it. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's still pretty intense. Yeah.
That's still going to be a pretty good portion of what's left for the supply of those, which is really interesting. And Chad, do you want to bring up that release schedule? We could talk about that real quick as well. So, Trav, this sounds like it was your brainchild. Want to talk about what we're looking at here on the screen?
Own it, Trav, own it.
This was way too complicated for me to think of, but if we can cut that part, yes, this was my idea. So the big discussion that came from the last drop. So the big problem we had on the last drop is that we just sold out too quickly, and that kind of resulted in obviously people getting pretty upset, and we kind of had a long, hard look at what the community was saying, and we kind of stepped away and we said, okay, we don't want to be a project where we get feedback and then we kind of whatever, we're going to keep doing it. We want to take feedback and we want to adjust, and we want to keep the community as happy as possible. So two things that really popped out is that there wasn't enough racehorses. So as much as we want to keep supply under control, we also want people to be able to race and breed. So if we have to make a bit of a sacrifice there, then we're willing to do it. And number two, because we have such a widespread audience, like we were talking about this before the podcast, like in crypto, the demographics are so widespread. So we literally have an audience in each time zone across the world, right? Mm-hmm. So the way that we kind of broke it up is to say, okay, we're going to separate the bloodlines. So we can have a bit less demand on each wave, which I think we might be wrong, because that it seems like there's going to be even more demand, but we tried. But at least we're going to be filling in different blocks and different waves. So users are going to be able to actually come online at maybe a more convenient time for themselves, as opposed to, because, we had a lot of people waiting up until like 1 or 2 in the morning. And that's not really the experience we want. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So we have most of our audience here, it would be based in the US. So we're looking at 2 p.m. time zones on the West Coast, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. But yeah, there's some really awesome options to be able to get online and make your purchases where you're not up till 3 a.m. My wife was so upset at me for being up. We have a newborn, and I was up till 3 a.m. buying horses.
That's not what we wanted.
Yeah.
Well, the horses aren't keeping you awake, the newborn is.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I told her. And then, needless to say, the Holiday Inn has really nice COVID protocols these days. So.
Zed Run causing marital problems since 2 years ago.
Well, it was really weird when I brought the AR horse into bed after.
I mean,
just wait for the VR one, man. It's much better.
It's never been well received at my house.
No, hey, but on Trav's point there with the drop, why we split it up as well is it ranges to the whole point of decentralizing as well and giving everybody a fair go. Yeah, exactly. So we changed the time zone, so it's a good time. You don't have to get up at 3. We want it to be accessible for everybody, because the whole point of, again, back to our lore story, is we want to make it accessible for everybody. So give everybody an even go. A fair go is what you say in Australia, fair chance. So by breaking it up and saying, hey, Z1s and Z2s are going off here, or Z1s or Z2s. Sorry, I'll have that American twang too.
There you go.
My kids give me shit for it all the time. Then people who are users who want to target that specifically can go online at that time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we can also talk about, like, our drop went well last time, but it didn't go as smooth as we wanted it to be. There were technical hiccups. There was stress on the network that we didn't foresee. So splitting it up as well is going to help us cater to that. But we've also, again, Jeff and the dev team have done an amazing job. Yeah. I mean, these last 2 weeks have just been, 24 hours on just boosting up our infrastructure. So we're ready and excited.
That's awesome. I can't wait. So that is this Friday, April 2nd then, correct? Is that what we saw?
That's correct.
I gotta make sure I get my Ethereum wallet loaded up, because I am not last drop. So I was sitting there on the last drop, and it was my first real day as a Zedder, and I had my Ethereum all loaded up. I intended on buying like 10 horses, and I ended up with 1, and I'm like, dang. So I'm gonna make sure I'm good and ready this time. Chad, you're gonna be lined up for some horses or what?
I'm ready to go. I
mean, look at that background. How can you ask that?
What questions do you got for the team here while we have them?
I've been writing down some things that have come up during the conversation. The first one that really stuck out to me when Chris was speaking, talking about the alternate universe, talking about, this is completely different from where we're living currently. In this universe, does the movie Shazam starring Sinbad exist?
No, but Shaq Fu does.
Damn it! All right, well, I'll end up finding this correct universe.
Next best thing, right?
Next best thing. The second question I had, being an Australian project, was there any pushback from the community about not adding Craig Wright's name to the list of horses you could purchase?
Good question.
You got the Nakamoto, you got the Buterin. Why not Craig Wright? I think a nice Craig Wright, maybe a Z50.
Well, that was exactly. I think his name was thrown around quite a bit.
I figure
until it was thrown into Yeah.
into the trash.
over there. Into the
If
trash.
there's like
Yeah.
if you guys have maybe some sort of horse that comes out, maybe the runt of the litter, or like 3 legs or something, maybe that could be that could be a right.
Yeah. We joke about the glue factory where you take your Zed horses out the back and you shoot them in a VR experience. But again, we joke about that.
Yeah.
And
They're not no digital horses gets harmed in the process.
no horses harmed, right? Like, that's one of the beauties of
You should throw that on the ticker, Chad, on the bottom.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Chad, we want to watch a race.
I do want to watch race.
All right, because I want to hear Chris. I want to hear Chris talk about the design here, because it's pretty awesome. So
I want to give a shout out to Ebbs on that. The design is beautiful.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I'm gonna pass that shout out onto my creative team as well, Pav and Jerry and all the guys that helped it happen. So thanks.
It's really cool. And what is, when you think about like all the awesome things that are attractive about this game, the buying and ownership of the horses, the breeding aspect, at the heart of it, the fun is really, really racing these horses, right? And when you get into these races and you see what the actual races look like, how cool the horses look, all of that kind of stuff, it's pretty. I was kind of hooked on that. So, Chad, if you go if you go to the next under the racing tab, next run. Oh, that's okay. So we got one going off in 5 minutes, so we can keep chatting. Click on that, Chad.
All right,
and then you'll be able to see in 3D, and it'll take you to another tab. And when it goes off, we'll head back there.
Yeah.
See, this is what I find really cool about how it's working now. It's like you've got a Z10 Buterin and a Z4 Nakamoto. Look at that win rate on that Z10 Buterin, man. 102. That's not bad. My word.
Yeah,
I've never won a race. I've never won a race on Zed
You've never, Chad. Trav. You've never won a race?
No, bro. I think it's biased towards South Africans.
It's
Aussies, man.
What kind of horse are you?
He might be right there.
Dude, I'm
part of the algorithm,
horse, man.
Yeah, I'll neither confirm or deny that one.
You've pre-programmed Trav's horses to lose.
Yeah,
dude, I've been asking everyone to help me, and no one's been able to fix it.
So sad.
So while we wait here to see this, let's talk about the racing mechanics and how the winning, how the races are kind of decided. Trav, you mentioned provably fair before, and I think that's a really good point to touch on. Is how are these races determined? Because there's odds. Each race has odds. So depending on your horse's underlying skill, what their bloodline is, and then compared to who else is in the race, you get odds for each race, and then that race goes off. So talk about kind of how that is all determined.
So to not go too deep, so if I'm not incorrect, it's like the way that it was kind of decided really, really early on is like the guys actually consulted with like a racing expert, basically, on kind of like from like a statistical point of view. So like how were these things generally like determined, how were odds created, etc. And then the basics of it is that we run like a few hundred scenarios based on the attributes and the odds and what kind of determines the strengths of the racehorses. And then we almost just randomize a pick of those few hundred scenarios. And so that's why it's, you have this really provably fair system where you always have a chance, because you're always going to have your odds thrown into the pot. And that's kind of like a high level look into it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So essentially, if
I can answer that, it's not. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I got a little delay. No, it's a couple of thousand simulated races that we run before, and then randomly pick one, and it's it's picked right before the race starts, so nobody knows what the outcome's going to be until that race is finished. So it's in that sense, it's provably fair. And it's the code's all out there, I think, in some ways. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but I think
you can always see it, right? Everything lives on chain. So that's what's really awesome about blockchain as well, is that it's always there.
Yeah,
That's
so
very
transparency is key. But we did consult in a big time mathematician and track expert and racing expert out of Hong Kong. I can't say any more than that, but yeah, and yeah, it's pretty big over there. And yeah, the guys have done an amazing job. I mean, it's been through a couple of cycles, and we're really happy where it's at the moment.
That's cool. So essentially then what we're seeing on the screen when we're watching a race is essentially one of the iterations picked at random that ends up winning.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. One of the random picked out of the thousand simulations.
Awesome.
And what it does is it takes all those attributes into account. And, like, again, a Z10 has a probability that is less than a Z1. However, there's still a chance. And that's what we're seeing.
Right.
It's that little, and we love that, the underdog story in racing and in sports. And that enables
mathematically
that.
there is a chance.
Yes, absolutely.
So now there is, and then when we're talking about the racing algorithm, currently, from what I've heard, is that the only thing that potentially matters at the moment for your horse is the distance. Is that correct? And if not, or if so, are there plans to add other kind of variables into the racing algorithm in the future, weather, things like that?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Fatigue, like it's bringing fatigue back in. Fatigue, weather conditions, track conditions, altitude, all that stuff is on the cards for sure. I mean, we need to gamify it even more. Like our key is to make it a game of skill, and for you to bringing all these different kind of attributes in. Is it frozen?
So
I feel like I'm
this
frozen.
is
Did you just lose me?
you're good.
No, you're good.
Okay.
We actually got the race running right now, which is probably
I can see that.
we're trying to
anyway.
do it at the same time. I actually did. I'll talk about this in a second, but I threw in a little zest bet on horse number 4 here. So let's
On
see.
horse number 4, wonderful banker.
No, that I've got Lyrids. I've got Lyrids, so he's in 10th right now.
Oh,
And
is it 10th?
he was 9-1 odds before the race. Not the favorite. He's kind of right in the middle of the pack. The worst horse in the race had 40-1 odds. That is pull the plug. 42-1 odds. And so you can see kind of how this, if you're watching the video version of this, now we got some horses that pull away. What you're going to see now, each of these races there's different racing options with different distances. Goes from 1,000 meters all the way up to 2,600, if I remember correctly. So you can essentially race your horses at all these distances and find out potentially what your preferred distance for that specific horse and breed
Watch out
type.
for Satan's Bay. Satan's Bay's coming for
talk
it.
about that
Satan's
name.
Let's talk about that name. Let's not.
Oh,
Here he comes up the line. He comes up the side. Look at this.
Ooh,
Oy.
all right, so I lost my Zed. My guy came in 8th. That's pretty brutal. So you can actually go to, it's called playwithzest.com, picks.playwithzest.com, and you can actually bet your play money Zest tokens. Now, there's rumors that they might be used for something in game at some point. Is there any truth to that?
We can either confirm that or not deny it. So,
okay.
I mean,
no,
what a
look.
politician, man.
Yeah, look, exactly. I've watched enough American TV. Look, no, look. Zest is our prediction platform. We like to use the word prediction, not bet.
Sure.
Yeah, there's some big plans in the future. I mean, there's been a white paper out there about Des, your name, actually Zed spelled backwards.
Des, that was super confusing at first, by the way.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
So I don't know if you guys have looked into that or heard rumors about or read about what Des is.
Yeah, can we talk about that really quickly as well?
Travis.
Yeah, I've who's
Trav,
best?
I'm gonna let you have a little.
Ebbs, you tee it up, bro, and then you hand it over to me.
I tee it up. I hand it over. It's an alley-oop.
Unreal, man.
Dunk
Yeah,
it.
so
Here,
Des,
I'm throwing it up
Des
to you.
is Des is coming. So I don't know if you guys ever looked at the first vision paper, but we released a vision doc a while ago to the community, and we used it as a really good kind of like feedback gathering tool, if that makes sense. So we kind of knew that that wasn't going to be the final product, but the kind of focus was getting it out there and seeing what players and community members kind of thought. I like the banner at the bottom.
Yeah.
So good. And because, you know, like Des, the focus of Des, the token, not Des here, is obviously
Maybe
like
both.
our community. And the
Maybe
I
both.
mean, Des, you need to make, you know,
Des's
you can make
face
that
is going to be
comparison.
the token.
That's right.
That we can confirm. That's
We'll
a
cut you
fact.
in on it.
I love it.
That we can.
So Des is going to be very user and player focused, and it's going to be very ecosystem focused. So we really want to build Des into, you know, we talk about ecosystem a lot. Like we spend a long time trying to build the ecosystem from a foundational point of view to really try and make it like a really wholesome ecosystem that people can live in and they can like play in and they really enjoy it. And Des is going to just build upon that. So without like confirming or denying, there's definitely going to be mechanics that play really directly into the game and directly into the people that play the game and love the game.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And just
go
from a gamer's point of view, if I can jump in, it's like when you play Fortnite or if you play Call of Duty or any of these games and you earn these virtual currencies, right?
Mhm.
And you don't own them. And when you buy a skin, you don't own the skin.
Yeah.
So again, what NFTs and what tokenization and these tokens can help us do is time put in is going to earn you actually stuff or coins or, you know, skins that you own and you can monetize, that you can actually create. So play more, earn more in a sense, you know what I mean? And we see this as a huge shift, and I know big gaming studios are looking at it. I've seen Activision popping in on some of our on our talks and stuff like that, and other game studios. They have to be looking at how do we give true ownership via NFTs, via crypto, via blockchain to our users, because it's coming, and it's just a matter of time that the big fish they adopt this. In my opinion.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because that's, I think, what is, I just think about all the games that I've played growing up, whether it's Madden or anything, where I spent all this time and potentially even money building these teams that, and the game resets every year and you're left with nothing, right? And
and you do it again.
Yes, and I do it I was doing it for years and years and years. And then so I think that's why I get so excited and obsessed with games like this, where it's like, there is a whole ecosystem around it with ownership, with a monetary, like a real money marketplace around it. And so, you know, there is end game to the game you're playing, right? Like there is, you know, value to it, which I think is, so, you know, maybe my mom won't kick me out of the basement for eating Cheetos and racing horses all day because I'm earning some money. You know?
Exactly, bro.
But
because you're making, exactly.
Let me tell my mom that quickly. Hold on.
But I think that's really fascinating, and especially just the real ownership piece. So what this says to me, all of this conversation is where the platform is right now is still very, very early. We have it sounds like we haven't seen really anything yet, and which is crazy, even more exciting to me. What do you think about that, Chris? You think we're in the first inning? We haven't even started the game yet, or what?
Man, yeah, we're warming up. We're warming. Like it's tip of the iceberg, and it's tip of the iceberg in the NFT space. Period. I mean, there are some amazing projects out there. I mean, what NBA Top Shots did, it blows my mind. I'm a big basketball fan. I collected basketball cards. It's the natural progression when technologies come into play, right? And for us, it's the same. Like the roadmap I have on the creative side, you know, my hands have been tied, and I'm just can't wait to unleash what we have in store, which I've kind of alluded to in terms of the metaverse and in terms of the gamification attributes that we want to add to it. You know, just to bring you back to what you saw on the 3D race there, I just want to highlight that's all created in WebGL. It's created with 3JS, which is also extremely, like, we've pushed the limits in that area too. Like, at Virtually Be Human, one of the things that we want to do is push the limits and boundaries in technology, right? That's something we've always been. So we're doing it with the blockchain. We're doing it with NFTs. We've got plans for bigger plans in that space. Same with the visuals that we're doing. So why we did that is we don't want people to download an app, download a game, or have to do anything. You can jump on your phone, you can jump on your smart device or your laptop, and you can access the game. You can access the visuals, and you can click it and interact. You can control the camera. You can click on the horses and their stats come up while it's racing. Like all that stuff it's all interactive, which is pretty damn cool.
That's how I track my horse on the track. I click on it so it highlights it for me.
and so things like you want to be able to look at your opponents too and click on them. And what we want to add there is black booking, which I'm sure Des is familiar with in horse racing, where you can actually black book a horse. So you keep a track on him, you star him. So now you can follow this opponent. Maybe it's a horse you want to buy in the future or breed in the future
Interesting.
Future. So we want to enable that utility so the user has the most power. And we've got all sorts of things coming, man, like stable management tools with advanced stats and data. So when you go in, you're going to have this beautiful UI where it just tells you what your horse is good at and not good at, and visualized, data, which is, I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the next iteration as well is fidelity, man. Like, so we're doing this in WebGL, but a dream of mine, I'm just going to share that is to bring that AAA graphics, bring that true fidelity. It's something that we chase as 3D artists. It's something that the big companies always are chasing. MetaHumans from Unreal or Unity are doing it with real-time rendering and all that stuff. We want to put our product in a space like that, so those horses can be living and breathing. You know what I mean? And machine learning is something that I'm also pushing the envelope on. And if you guys know what machine learning is, in short, what can happen is we can create these horses. We can give them life. You don't visit your horse for 2 weeks, that horse could react differently to you because of the machine learning.
That's why I'm hiring a stable boy.
Yeah, we're all getting stable boys.
That's what I'm saying, right? So then you got to visit, and then you got to either jump in VR and visit this thing, or AR, bring it to your dinner table and have dinner with it, or bring it to bed, and then that will trigger the machine learning algorithms, which then will decide how this horse is going to react. Like maybe it'll fade in color, maybe it'll just react happily to see you. Stuff that can emotionally connect our users and engagingly. Like this is the metaverse, right? This is falling in love with a digital avatar, right? There's something there that I really, really love, and I'm fascinated and scared by it at the same time.
I was made for this game. I had a lot of Tamagotchis growing up. And none of them died. None of them. So
I killed every Tamagotchi I ever had.
If you're out there, the Mint Condition is looking for a stable boy. We hope to run our podcast stable.
Where do I send my CV?
That stuff is so fascinating, and I think that just kind of makes the point that we're just still so early in the project, which makes me excited that I found it early enough. Like, I think that we're all excited to be a part of it now, because it's a real opportunity to, be in on something really cool on the ground floor, which you don't get a lot of chances at in life. So very cool. Chad, you got any other questions here?
Yeah, I had one actually for you guys. Joe, I know you have, how many horses do you have actually?
I now have 6 horses, I think. Yeah,
Ooh.
I went from 0 horses to 6 horses.
And Des, how many do you have? Do you have any yet?
I'm still waiting. So I'm a big research guy. I was waiting to see what happens with this drop. I'll be honest, I might be going to the secondary market right after this podcast because I don't know if 500 per bloodline is enough for me. So I might be hitting the secondary market real quick.
So speaking of the secondary market, if you do not get a horse on this coming drop on April 2nd, you can head over to matic.opensea.io and you can actually purchase one of these horses that somebody else has for sale. So these are either, and you'll find you'll find a kind of a mixture of stuff on here. So some of them will be Genesis horses. Some of them might be horses that have been bred. Each of them kind of own their own unique value if you know what you're looking for. So I would say if you're going to buy on the secondary market, make sure you do a little more heavy research than if you just jump into a drop, because you don't want to, you just want to know what you're getting yourself into. But the people in the Discord, I got to tell you, one of the best parts is the community. It's been amazing. Everybody is so willing to kind of help you learn and point you in the right direction and be a resource. Personally, I have to give a shout out to Adam at Zed Gazette. He's been somebody that's answered a ton of my questions. And so I really appreciate his help, but so many people in the community. So check out the Discord. I think that's kind of where a lot of the magic happens in the community. So, but that's how you can buy a horse on the open market if you miss out on the drop. But I hope you don't. I hope the drop is big enough.
Can I give a special shout out to the community as well? I mean, it's one of the things that we as founders have always been aware of. Like, they make our product, and they have been just legends from the beginning. And as you said, you mentioned Adam from Zed Gazette, but there are so many guys out there and girls out there supporting us and just knowledge share. Happy to talk about the product. Really excited about what we do. We try to be as transparent with them as possible, and we're in there in Discord. I've been in there, maybe not this week, so I need to get back in there. I sometimes do like a weekly drop of an image I'm working on and want to share stuff with the guys and everybody else. Trav's in there, Rob, our co-founder, Chris. Like we're all the founders are trying to be in there when we're not elsewhere, because these people are what makes our product, man. Like they're amazing. So it's the best community in the world.
I actually did. 100%. I bought a unraced Z4. Z4, sorry, from Doofy as well. So shout out to Doofy Racing.
Yeah, Doofy, exactly.
And then, but yeah, Des, you got any questions here before we wrap up?
We could spend hours talking about this. I think to sum it up, the work that the Zed team has already put in is phenomenal. I'm so excited. I was excited about Top Shot. I think this has more utility. This has more long-term, growth potential. And no, I'm excited. So no, I just want to say thank you to both, Ebbs and Trav for being on here today, letting us in a little bit into the, headquarters, if you will. And we're just so excited for this next drop, what's to come, all the things you guys are working on. So I'm excited.
Chad, what are you buying some horses on the next drop? What else? What you got for parting words?
I'm loaded up. I just got to figure out, do I need a Z2 or a Z1 Nakamoto? Do I maybe like a top 5 kind of thing? I'm not sure.
We'll talk about that.
I'm very excited though. I have positioned myself to make some big buys.
One of each, he says.
You should be in marketing, bro.
One of each would cost you a pretty penny at this point.
Hey, but one of the best things I saw on Twitter the other day was people talking about it, and some people were worried that they were coming late to the table. And the best quote I saw, and I shared it with Trav and the marketing guys all week, was if you get in this drop or the next drop, you're going to be in before the next 5,000 people next month. You know what I mean? Yeah. Again, it's the tip of the iceberg stuff. There's plenty of Genesis horses left, and this ecosystem is going to be evolving. And it's going to be, my dream is it's going to be this kind of standalone ecosystem where we can just sit back and watch everybody just take their roles within it. Boom, boom, boom. This metaverse of people, horse trainers, racetrack owners, all the
Chad the stable boy.
Like it's
the stable boy.
Yeah, the stable boy.
Hey. I think that's awesome. And like I said, I think this is the right time to get involved. If you're not already involved, I don't think it's too late. Some people have felt, like they were maybe too late to things like Top Shot. And, I still think you're early enough there too. But here feels like it feels like you're, in Top Shot in October. You know what I mean? So I think you definitely have a really good opportunity if you get involved now. And there's so many awesome people and resources to get yourself up to speed. So that's pretty cool. So Trav, before we get going, where can people find you guys? What's the best way to get in contact, and where can we direct people to go?
I think follow us on Twitter, guys. We update there all the time. But I think the best place, if you want to be in contact with the team and the amazing community, which I think is even more valuable, is on Discord. Definitely join the Discord channels. Yeah, get talking. Our community members will guide you to how to get started, how to win your races, and all of that good stuff.
Although the horses are drying up, nobody wants to sell any horses anymore.
No,
I think they all see what the potential is, and they don't want to sell.
Speaking of one thing that we didn't, maybe we touched on, maybe I wasn't paying attention. That does happen at times. What do I need to have for the drops? Is it Ethereum? Is it wrapped Ethereum? Do I need another currency that I don't know about yet? What do I need?
You just need ETH. So this drop is just going to be standard ETH. We're not going to do fiat credit card or debit card. It's not wrapped ETH. Just because ETH is just proving to be the easiest way for us to kind of ensure the good customer experience on the drops. Like the last drop where we had fiat credit card and debit card, for example, it caused a lot of headaches with users, like thinking that they had purchased, and man, it was just, so we just don't want that to happen again.
No, that's fair.
That triggered one more question for me. So the Ethereum piece, obviously at the moment, obviously gas fees are high. In the future, is that your direction to kind of move everything to Matic? I know that's kind of been the case so far. Is that kind of how the direction is going to keep going?
Ibs?
No, that's a marketing question. No, I definitely. No, look, we do. Yes. Look, we do want to have a gasless experience, so we are looking for these layer 2 solutions, just like Polygon Matic, which we've got gasless racing at the moment, and what it looks in very soon. I know the community's been asking for breeding. We're working hard on breeding. We actually do have breeding pretty much ready. We just need to test it. And hopefully we'll be getting some gasless breeding out there in the very soon, short term.
That's huge.
So, can you confirm or deny that, Trev?
I can confirm very soon. Gasless breeding is very soon.
Okay.
Very soon.
Excellent.
That's good. So like when we're talking about the level of soon, and the drop being like very, very soon, how close to soon after that?
Where are you?
Man, you guys hurt me. You guys really hurt me. Well, I would say the best way to answer that is like the next thing that we announce after the drop is probably going to be gasless breeding.
That's great.
Yeah,
perfect.
Exciting.
That's going to be just in time.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, gents, I really appreciate you guys coming on, and this is more exciting for me than probably anybody else. Like you get to talk to the people who are making the thing that you're currently obsessed with, and so that's really a cool experience. So we do appreciate you guys coming on. We hope that we can share this with everybody else out there and get some more people involved in what is proving to be a really cool experience. So thank you guys for coming on. Chad, any parting words?
No, thank you for coming on. You really made Joe's day. He has been nonstop talking about Zed Run for like, I don't know, like at least a good 3 weeks, would you say, Joe?
Yeah, I tried to get him to send me some Ethereum to buy him a horse. He didn't even know what he was buying. He was going to send me like 10 ETH to buy him a Z1.
I'm ready to go.
But yeah, appreciate it, you guys. So everybody check them out on Twitter. Get in the Discord. Get involved. The drop is April 2nd, time zone specific. So, we'll post that on our Twitter as well. And until next time, stay mint.